Shadow work, I'm going to introduce what it is, why, what the benefits are, when the good times are to do it. I'm going to give you some examples that relate to me so it gives you some context. And then there's just a worksheet in there that if you would like to do a little bit of shadow work today, then you can. But shadow work can be a little bit deep, and some people might feel that this isn't the space that they want to start doing that deep dive, and that's absolutely fine. So does anyone know what shadow work is? Some do. I've spoken to some that do, a little bit. So it began as a psychological concept by the wonderful Carl Jungian theory, which is that everyone has this personality that they're happy to show, but then we also have this shadow side of ourselves that we keep hidden. And we can keep that side hidden for a number of reasons. It might be that we've been conditioned to do so. We might have been shamed into keeping it hidden. We might have keeping it hidden to keep us safe. And these traits don't always need to be negative traits as such. It can be that you've been told that you're too much, that you're too loud, that you're too confident, and that you reduce those elements of yourself and they become part of your shadow self. Your shadow is that side of yourself that you don't always show. Now, why is it important that we look at that? Well, because our shadow self is what informs our emotional reactions. It can be our triggers. It might cause us to think in black and white ways or rigid kind of ways. So addressing our shadow just allows us to accept ourselves on a more broad aspect. It allows us to overcome our triggers and to respond rather than react, and to really kind of work out, why am I feeling like this? So it's like a safe way of bringing it into the light. And just like with most fears, when we bring them out of ourselves and we talk about them and we look at them and we address them, they don't feel quite as scary. And that is the idea behind shadow work. So when I first sat down and thought, right, okay, I'm going to face my shadow, I was like, I really love myself and I've done a lot of healing and I'm really confident in who I am. And I'm thinking, how do you start to dig around and find the aspects that you've hidden about yourself? Because you've done that to keep yourself safe or because you've been shamed into doing it. So it can be really, really hard to actually start to unpick that shadow. A few ways that you can think about addressing your shadow is your triggers. So when something triggers you, your triggers are your biggest teachers. It's about stepping back and thinking, well, why has that triggered me? It can be looking at the judgments that you make of other people when they walk into a room. We all judge to a certain degree. Judgments keep us safe. As human beings, you make a judgment of somebody within the first 2 or 3 seconds of meeting them, sometimes even quicker. Energy, your intuition is already checking that person out. But it's about having that open mind that you will change that judgment if that person actually proves you wrong. But it suddenly made me really aware that this person was like that. And if they've probably already looked me up and down and realised I'm not wearing anything that's in fashion or anything that's branded, and what kind of judgment have they made of me? So initially it made me aware of the way other people might view me, but then it made me realise that's why this person is quite insecure, because if she's there judging everybody else, she's going to feel like that's the way everybody is judging her. It's okay to be selfish now and again, and it's okay to put yourself first, and it's okay to say no, and no is a full sentence. So it actually unlocked this whole shadow part of myself that needed addressing. The shadow self isn't there to be fixed. It isn't broken. It isn't something that we want to heal out of existence. It's about facing these elements of yourself that might be causing whether it's causing you to hold yourself back, it's causing barriers in your life, whether it's causing emotional responses, whether there's a toxic relationship. As you start to really address your shadow and really look at what exists in the dark, it allows you to make more informed decisions in all areas of your life. It's not about self-criticism. It's about honestly having a look at the judgments that you might make of others or the things that you might feel triggered by. And a good time for shadow work seasonally. So I'm really into the moon phases and the seasonal cycles. And with this being, we're still in winter. We've got Imbolc coming up on February the 1st, and then we'll be really welcoming the sunshine back, and we'll know we're getting closer to spring at that time. So now is a really nice time to do a little bit of shadow work, because imagine that your mind is like your garden, and at the minute there's no flowers growing or anything like that. It kind of looks like it's barren, but it's not. Underneath the surface, that's where the work's going on. The seeds are harnessing their energy, ready to start growing. The new moon is a brilliant time for new starts, which is, again, when it came to planning these workshops, they're not by coincidence. They're picked out at times when we think that the energy is going to be right for the things that we're talking about. The energy of the full moon can bring emotions to the surface. And it's about being aware of those emotions and being able to observe them and think, okay, why am I feeling this way? The full moon's also a really lovely time to get together, to celebrate with friends, to feast. So when you're going from new to full, it's growing. And when you're going from full to new, it's getting smaller again. So even whether it's planting, whether it's cutting your hair, whether it's how much you're eating, so fasting and things like that, it's like trying to keep it in that flow. So the lunar phases, I feel really connected to the lunar phases, really strongly about the subject, because the calendar used to be in time with the lunar phases, and it has rest built into it. You have 14 days of action and then 14 days of rest, and 14 days of action and 14 days of rest. And the reason I actually aligned myself with the moon phases is because as an ADHD, I don't know when to stop, and I can't stop. I'm hyperactive and I'm constantly doing something, and I thought I need a way. I couldn't just say, Tuesdays I'll have the day off, because I'm quite novel brain as well, so I need it to be novelty based. If you say Tuesdays is your day off, I don't want that to be my day off anymore. So I needed to find a way for it to work for me, and the moon phases definitely works for me in terms of giving me a bit of time off. The solar calendar that we follow now is just, it invented burnout. Seasonal workshops is that in springtime, the activity will be, there'll be the naked photo shoot, which is optional, but planting a seed. So you'll get to take away your seed that you've planted, but that'll be like planting those intentions, ready to let them bloom. In the summer, it'll be a more of a celebration, because we're fulfilled and we're in our most energetic state. And then as we get to autumn, we're going to bring the foraging in. We're going to go out and forage something and make something out of what we forage, whether that'll be mugwort and we'll make a cleansing stick or something like that. So yeah, it took me a good few years of really making one little change at a time. I think when I was younger, I was like, but I want to be a witch, and I want all the crystals, and I want to know what they mean, and I want all the herbs, and and I want all of this knowledge, and that would almost put me off from getting started. So then it's like, just make one little change at a time. I find triggers the quickest, easiest way to work out which areas of yourself you can focus on. So common triggers towards other people, it might be jealousy, because jealousy is something we're taught to be really ashamed of, but actually emotions are normal, but emotions are energy in motion. The idea is that we don't get stuck there. We just allow ourselves to feel it. We allow it to move through us, and then it's gone again. I heard something on a podcast last night. They said, you can be in pain for 30 seconds, 30 minutes, or 30 years. It really is kind of up to you how long you hold it within you. And it is about that awareness and being able to move through it. So I've put some examples, but common triggers can be feeling annoyed at people that you perceive as being lazy, that you perceive as being too loud. But, why are these? So the trigger first, but then thinking about where that might have come from. Is it that you were told off when you were a child for behaving that way? Is it a behavior that you were taught was something that was bad? Or have you been in a toxic relationship where that's the thing that somebody has shamed you for? So it's really first thinking about something that bothers you. It could be a friend, it could be a stranger, it could be a situation that happened many years ago. And then thinking about, well, where did that actually come from? And that just in itself is you meeting your shadow. For anybody that is finding it a little bit tricky, do not worry. This is the point of shadow work. These are the things that we have buried really, really deep in ourselves. They're the things that we've been taught to be ashamed of.